Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode, we're talking about money, talking about your finances, and more importantly, how to turn financial adversity into success. I think a lot of people can relate to that. We've all had some sort of financial adversity, but what's the path forward? How do you actually capitalize on that, grow your business, and look at money differently so it's a tool and not something to be afraid of, as a lot of people are? So I have a very cool guest with me today, and he's going to help us understand what this path looks like for us in our businesses. Christian Brim, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it.
So we got to talking a little bit before the recording here. You are a published author. Congratulations. That's a huge deal. But not only that, you are a published author in one of my personal favorite book series, a book that changed my business foundation and future in Profit First. And Profit First for Creatives is your book. So yes. What got you into this topic of Profit First for Creatives and dealing with financial adversity and turning that to success? Where'd that all begin for you?
Well, I think it began for me when, as a teenager, we had a family business and multi-generations, and the business went bankrupt. And the thing that challenged me most was not the loss of the material things. It was the effect that had on my family. And, the family had to disperse and find work and lost that connectedness. And, the stress of it. I never went hungry. I never was homeless, but it was a radical change in my life. And that's what had the impact. What I came to believe as a young man was that, the story didn't have to end that way, right? I didn't know at that time exactly what that looked like, but I knew that there had to be an alternative. And so I started out with just the simple goal of helping small businesses with their finances, to give them that stress-free life that they ostensibly started their business to obtain, right? They wanted freedom, financial freedom. They wanted time freedom, and my job is to help them achieve that.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. First of all, I love mission-driven and passion-driven entrepreneurs, because I know you want to get it in the hands of more people to help them, and I think that's just so cool. But those two things, the time freedom and financial freedom, which everybody arguably starts their business for, one if not both of those,
right?
All of our stress in business comes down to one if not both of those. You could boil every excuse down, and it's either I don't have enough time, I'm working too much, I'm spending too much time in this area, or I don't have enough finances, I can't scale the business, I can't hire employees, I can't delegate things. So right. when you're having this conversation about, profit first for creatives, profit first in general, just being more profitable, what do you really want people to know about the idea of being profitable? Like, how can we avoid one at least of those two fears?
Well, I think, and Mike's book is worth reading just to read his story. I heard him in person present on it right after he'd published the book. I hadn't read the book, but heard him speak, and his story was great. Not great to him at the time, but it was a great origin story, right? And the thing about Profit First and then Profit First for Creatives is that, it's a simple system. The system is not really the most value to me. The most value is changing your mindset about money and being intentional about profit, right? I think a lot of business owners, myself included, get caught in the hamster wheel of growth and use that as an excuse to not make the profit that they should. They use that phrase, "Oh, I'm investing it in the business," right? Without really having a clear idea of what that really means. Like, if you and I were to invest in a startup company or even a publicly traded stock, we'd have some expectation of return, right? We're going to put in $1,000 and we expect to get 15% return, right? Well, business owners and myself included, when we made that conversation with ourselves, that deal with ourselves is, well, I'm investing it back in the business. There was no metric or analytics around it. Like, okay, is your business actually making more money? Is it growing? Is that just an excuse to not make as much money as you should?
I love that argument. And I hear people say it all the time. Mike's book changed my perspective on that, did a complete 180. Because yeah, if you're not like, why be in business if it's not going to make money, right? You would
Right.
never accept that in any other context unless you put on that little title on your name tag that says owner. It
Right.
absolutely makes no sense. But I also want to talk about the specialty of your book, the creative side.
Yes.
That's such a wide term. Like, can you
Mm,
give me a sense of what you mean when you say for creatives?
yeah. And I address this in the forward to my book, is that when I went to Mike and asked him, he had to approve the title. I was afraid that creatives was too broad. Like, his other derivative books are very specific, like Profit First for Real Estate or Profit First for e-business. And he was like, "No, actually, we already have approved that title." And I was like, okay. Someone had intended to write it, but didn't write it. Um, but through the process of writing the book, I had to define that, like who are creatives. Our target market for this book and for our business are those that are in creative industries such as videography, cinematography, marketing agencies, interior designers, those type of folks, content creators. But this idea of creativity actually was kind of a self-discovery for me, because I think every entrepreneur is at some level creative, right? You talked about passion. I interviewed Todd Henry, the author of The Accidental Creative, for the book, and he mentioned that the Greek word for passion, parakitos, I think, I don't quote me on that. Anyway, actually means suffering. And he said that, if you're going to follow your passion, you have to be willing to suffer for it, right? And I think that's what distinguishes creative entrepreneurs versus what I call builder entrepreneurs. Builders see an opportunity, they see a way to make money, some problem that needs to be fixed, and they solve it, but they don't really have any emotional connection to the problem. They don't have any experience in the problem. Not most entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs have some itch that they're trying to scratch for themselves, and that turns into a business, or they have some passion and they follow it. And those creative entrepreneurs, I think, are the more popular.
Yeah, I think at least for the entrepreneurs I talk to in general, not outside of the creative field, they're all creative, right? They
Yeah.
they have a number of our clients are people who set out to solve a problem. They were mission driven to change the world or change an industry, and
Hmm.
a way a problem presented itself in that industry, and they by accident built this business.
Right.
And that's my favorite story too. It sounds like you resonate with that, obviously. But for those people, and even more on the creative side, what are some of the common pitfalls that you've come across in running their businesses? Some of the examples you said, like a photographer, videographer. I mean, you're talking small businesses, small teams typically,
Hmm.
and they're so focused on the art and the creative side and the process or the product that I've seen a lot of them kind of drop the ball on the business side. Do you tend to see that, or what are some of the common pitfalls you see?
Absolutely. I mean, I uh, I don't want to work with artists. Let me put it that way, because artists are more focused on the product and not the business side of it. It was an interesting. I started asking some of our clients on a scale of 1 to 10, how creative do you think you are? Like, one is, think an accountant or an engineer, spreadsheets, and 10 is Rembrandt or Beyonce, whatever. Um, and most of them landed self-evaluating in the middle range, right? So they kind of had both aspects. And the ones that are purely focused on the creative aspect of it and don't really care about the money, I can't really help, right? Like, because I mean, um, I talk about this. I've talked about this many times. My daughter graduated from college, magna cum laude, had a job opportunity, and she said, Dad, I think I'm going to go be an artist. And she'd never studied art. She'd been an oil painter, so she'd done it. But I'm like, okay, how are you going to make a living at that, right? Like, who are you going to sell it to? At what price? Asking those business questions. And she finally just got frustrated with me at 22 and said, I don't know, Dad. I'm just going to make what I want to make, right? And her journey, I mean, she has supported herself as an artist, so she's figured it out, but she still really clings to that. I'm going to make what I want to make. I'm not making, I'm not doing commissions. I'm not doing, so, but that limits the business potential, right? If you're doing it out of your own creativity rather than solving a problem that's out there, you're going to limit your business potential.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. I think that's easy to see, especially for anyone listening to this show. We're more business focused, but for those people who are on the side of really good at what they do, started their business for a passion, don't fully get the business side, but want to. What have you seen in the shift from the mindset shift that you said about just thinking about profit as more of a tool and shifting the mindset? How has that improved their business as a whole?
Well, I think what happens when you start to focus on profit is you start to run into your own limitations, right? And this is true in any business, but especially true with creatives. And one of my colleagues calls it the entrepreneurial inflection point. That point where they realize that whatever needs to be done to take the business to the next level, they can't do it, right? And I see it. Most businesses experience that first inflection point when they have to hire employees and delegate, right? And most business owners get stuck there. They might hire employees, but they never truly delegate the work. They're just doing the work, and the employees are picking up the pieces, right? But if they can truly delegate, which means give authority to somebody to do, you deputize them to go do what you would do in their stead, then they can progress. But eventually they're going to reach another inflection point where, they realize whatever skill set the business needs, they don't have. And they have the opportunity to learn that skill set if they want to, but there's also the opportunity to outsource that, right? So, like, bring in a partner to handle those things that they can't do but need to be done.
So what does that what does that look like? Because that's where I see a lot of people getting scared because they think they've built this thing at both of those inflection points, as a matter of fact. And I think you hit the nail on the head. They've built this business. It's their baby. They're creatives. So they're even, they're probably tied to it through passion or mission. And then to give it to somebody else, there's that fear of, what if they kill it? What if they kill my baby? What if they drop it and it gets a bump on its head? Particularly at that second inflection point, when they have to become either the CEO or the chairman of the board, what does that typically look like for creatives? I've honestly never explored that because I usually don't work in that industry, that side of the industry. So what have you seen people typically tend to do?
Well, I think, and this has definitely been my journey as well, is I think it takes a lot of self-work, a lot of understanding yourself, why you think what you do, why you act and do what you do, why you feel the way that you do, right? As you were saying that with the reference to the baby, I was thinking of two things. One, I was thinking of when we had our firstborn, we went to a high school football game, and my family was there, and they were passing my daughter all around, and my wife was terrified. She just, was sick to her stomach. And I'm like, all of these people have held babies before, right? They've had their own kids. They know what they're doing. It's okay. But, her having that feeling, that rational thought was not going to break through, right? But the experiencing it, she was able to say, okay, they're not going to drop my baby. And I think that, when I get to the point where I'm starting to feel fear or anxiety about turning something loose, I like to think about worst case scenario, right? So let's say, what's the worst case scenario that I hire Brandon and he just screws it up? What does that look like? And if I can get comfortable with the worst case scenario, then I can rationally move past that feeling. I'm not going to eliminate the feeling, but at least I've come to grips with, okay, here's the worst case. And it's likely not going to be a worst case, but I can survive the worst case. And that allows me to progress through that feeling.
Well, I got news for you. You deal with accounting and taxes. You should not hire me because the worst case is going to be worse than you probably planned for. But I hear what you're saying. That's
Yeah.
true. It's a valid point too. And I think that we get caught up there because we tend to think worst case, but actually make it worse than what
Oh,
it
yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous place to find yourself in if you're going to
Well,
try to grow a business.
and the second thing that it reminded me of, I'm working on this project with a colleague around mindset and psychology of entrepreneurs. And there was a study that was done where they put male entrepreneurs in an MRI machine, and they showed them pictures. And what they discovered was that the same part of the male brain that lights up when they see pictures of their children is the same part of the brain that lights up when they see pictures of their business. And so yes, now they didn't do this study on women because I'm sure it wouldn't be the same, but for you and me, when you're talking using terms like baby, it's real, right? And so all of those feelings that are happening, yeah, they're the same feelings.
That's crazy. I don't know if I want the study to be done on women, or I think that just sums the whole thing up anyway. I'm split on that decision.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild. But no, this has been a great episode, Christian. I appreciate you coming here and sharing your wisdom and your book too. Let me put your website on the screen. If you want to go grab a copy of the book, check out Profit First for Creatives. It's also, the direct link is in the show notes down below. But Christian, I love to end these episodes with a question, and it's a question
Okay.
from you to the audience. So in the context of what we're talking about, everything we've talked about today, we believe that powerful questions get powerful answers. So you're talking about shifting your mindset about money, looking at your business differently, running your business like more of a business, all of these great things. But for the listener, what is that powerful question you want them to ask themselves until they get that powerful answer?
I think it would be something along the lines of how long are you going to continue struggling with your finances, your cash flow, your profitability until you're willing to make a change? Like how much pain are you willing to endure? Because you don't have to. I mean, that's a false question. You do have an alternative. So the question is, how much are you going to suffer?
Hmm. That's a good question. I like that. I encourage you as a listener to think about that and make a change, whether that's
Yes.
profit first for creatives, profit first in general. Great book, great topic. I encourage both of them. Christian, thank you for being here. This is a great episode.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate it.
For those of you watching and listening, we want you to subscribe. Hopefully you like this content. You want to keep coming back for more. We want to put these episodes out every single day of the week to help you grow your business, get outside of that box, make it easier, build a more harmonious business and life. That's the whole goal with this show. If you want to hang out with us, with the people on the show, the amazing guests, and the other listeners, jump on over to whatif.com/group. It'll take you to our private Facebook group where we just have a party and we build harmonious businesses all the time. We'll see you there, and we'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.